So a week away from the Tour de France coming to Cambridge, holding a question and answer session. We've had a few submitted from people. I'll start with Neil if I can.
Yeah.
First question is from Christopher Mullock, and he says, what time does the Tour start in Cambridge?
Well, the activity in terms of the build-up is as early as 8:30 on Parker's Piece. You'll see the tour buses arriving and the athletes kind of getting ready on kind of warm-up bikes. Then there's a thing called the Publicity Caravan, and we don't mean one caravan. It's a kind of carnival procession which will leave the corner of Parker's Piece by Gonville Hotel at around 10:15. That will take about 45 minutes to pass you if you were stood in one place watching the whole thing, and there'll be lots of floats throwing out free gifts into the crowd. And then the actual peloton, the actual race itself, will start at 12:15, where the peloton will go through the streets of Cambridge. They won't actually be racing until they reach Trumpington, round about Wingate Way, the street Wingate Way, which is when the start rail actually happens. Which is when they actually start competing against each other. So the 12:15 is the time when the peloton will start from Gonville Place, turn right to the Catholic Church and go down the historic streets of Cambridge.
We've got another question from Michael Burke in Cambridge. He says he'd be interested to know about the support for care providers who may not be able to go and visit the elderly on the Sunday and the Monday. Tony, I'll put that to you.
Yeah, there's been lots of work that has gone into that in terms of working with the care providers, working with various centres themselves. So what they've done is they will have tailored the requirements for those particular people. So if it's a Meals on Wheels, for example, they will deliver 2 meals on the Sunday instead of the one on the Monday. And also plans have been put in place to make sure that there is some contact. And one of the things that we'd also say to people is if you do know that you have an elderly neighbour or someone who's potentially vulnerable, just to check on them on the day, just to make sure they're all right and to be able to ensure that their safety is paramount, of course.
So obviously then plans have been put in place and people are not going to be missing out.
Well, no, we would hope not. And if anybody has any queries or if they haven't been contacted yet by either the care providers or ourselves as a county council, if they get in touch now, then we can make arrangements as appropriate.
Great. Moving on to Richard from Saffron Walden. He says, how are you planning to fix all of the potholes to make the road safe for that volume of cyclists in the space of just a week?
That's probably me again, sorry. In terms of the route, there's about 13 miles in total of the race in Cambridgeshire before it moves down into Essex. The organisers have ridden the route, and there is going to be another final check later this week to make sure that everything's okay. But they are more than happy with the general maintenance and the condition of the road. They haven't said that there is any massive particular issue at all. We will continue obviously to monitor it, and if a pothole appears in the next couple of days or so, obviously our maintenance team will handle that appropriately. But from the organisers' perspective, they are happy with the condition of the road.
Great. Julian Bray in Peterborough, he says, why does the route miss out Peterborough despite it being on the way from Yorkshire? Is that a one for you, Neil?
Yeah, it's just simply logistics, really. Welcome to Yorkshire. Obviously won the right to put the Tour de France on in the UK, and consequently the Grand Depart, the first 2 stages are up in Yorkshire. It needed to then end up in London. It couldn't just go straight from Yorkshire and leapfrog over to France. So a stage 3 was arranged. That stage 3 logistically just turned out to be Cambridge through Essex down to London. So sadly Peterborough doesn't get to see the Tour. I gather that some of the teams will be stopping off in Peterborough just to kind of get some sleep. But other than that, it starts in Cambridge and ends up in London. It's purely logistics of getting it over to France by stage 4.
Rachel in Duxford, she says, is the A505 going to be shut, or will we be able to cross the roundabout going towards Duxford at around 8 o'clock that morning? So I guess that's for rush hour.
Yes, it will be. The route itself obviously closes in South Cambridgeshire from 7 o'clock in the morning. So around that roundabout, there clearly will be road closures. However, we are mindful of the amount of traffic that uses the A505, and we've been speaking to local businesses about what the best arrangements can be. So we would advise people to plan for a 7 o'clock closure. However, if there are local build-ups of pressure, we will obviously use common sense and let traffic through if it needs be. But as I say, the main focus is to plan for a 7 o'clock road closure, and then we can work around that as needs be.
Martin Harris from Whittlesey, he says, how much is this costing council taxpayers?
Well, we're delighted to say it's costing council taxpayers absolutely nothing. One of the conditions that Cambridge, both county and city council, put when the tour was kind of floated as being in Cambridge is that we didn't have any budget to spend on it. All money is coming from government, so we are actually in the wonderful position of receiving the biggest annual sporting event in the world at no expense to the taxpayer at all, which is fantastic.
That's great, isn't it? Clive Skinner, he says, why hold a race called the Tour de France in the UK?
Well, the Tour de France organisers, they go to every other year, I think it is, that they go to different areas of Europe to be able to start the race. So it last came to the UK in 2007. It has started in Belgium and Holland and Spain before. So this is the UK's opportunity, and they, as I say, Yorkshire won the bid and they brought it here for 2014.
When was the last time it was in the UK? Do you know?
2007 it was. It was when, I think there was 2 stages. There was a time trial and then it went down to Canterbury as well from London.
Okay, great. Annette Ablewhite says, it's my birthday on Monday, so that'll be the 7th of July. I can't wait to go and see the race. Where is the best bit to be? Where's the best spot to watch?
There's a number of options, really. What we'd say to people, if you want to sort of see all the kind of the kind of showbiz element, all the excitement, then come down to Parker's Piece. There will be a big screen on Parker's Piece, not just on the Monday, but actually all weekend, showing the race live from Yorkshire as well. That's where you'll see all the tour buses. That's where there'll be the build-up of excitement. Alternatively, if you want to get down nice and early to one of the iconic spots in Cambridge, maybe King's, maybe where the round church is, we do advise people, if you're going for those iconic spots, to get down there nice and early and reserve a space. Alternatively, you might just want to get out of Cambridge into one of the villages on the edge where the route is going through. You'll see exactly the same thing. You'll still see the procession of floats that we mentioned earlier. And, of course, you'll see the riders actually racing against each other. It'll be less crowded. So it depends on your kind of take and your own personal preference, really, but one of those three. And happy birthday, Annette, and what a day to have your birthday on.
Susan Bell, she says, what can you tell us about how Addenbrooke's will run on Monday, and will it be as normal?
They, again, like lots of organisations from the City Council, the County Council, have been putting in lots of plans ahead of the race. So they have moved some of their operations to the weekend and to make sure that they are as flexible and as possible, that they haven't got anything that would need people to come in into that was pre-planned. So the emergency services will still be as normal. And for example, access to the Addenbrooke's access road, the race obviously goes straight across there, but there will be an ambulance on standby there should anybody drive there and need urgent medical support and help. So those are the sorts of plans that have been put in place, and they're confident that they can meet the needs of the residents in Cambridgeshire.
Kerry in Teversham says, why can't it be on a Sunday so that children can go and watch?
It's similar to the previous question about Peterborough, really. Not really in our control. It would be great if it was a Saturday or a Sunday. I mean, it would actually be less disruptive for the city. But, we are reminded of the fact that we're receiving the race. It's not something that we can kind of control. So, unfortunately, it is on a Monday, on a busy Monday. I am aware, obviously, that a lot of schools in the area have taken the decision themselves to close so that school kids can come out and watch the race as well. So we hope as many young people get to witness what is going to be a memorable day for the city.
And finally, Tom in Littleport, he says, what plans have you made to ensure there is a lasting legacy from the Tour de France?
Well, there's lots of things that have been going on. We've had the incredibly successful Velo Festival, which has kind of shown off Cambridgeshire's that cycling is in its DNA from all across, from Chatteris to Ely to Cambridge into Huntington as well. So it's covered lots of areas, and there's been about 120 events, and more are being added because the festival runs through to September. We also have a partnership with British Cycling, which is going to aim to help cycling clubs, but also to help those people who've never really felt that they could get into cycling, and those groups which have always kind of struggled or not been seen to be the thing that they want to do. So that's one of the things that we're going to start working on really over the next few months. And also there's the infrastructure that will be going into place that is already planned, but will be a huge benefit to people in the future as well. Heart.